Time and space are the most obvious parameters of our existence. They are among the first concepts a child learns. However uneducated people are, they will be able to identify the times and spaces in which they live, and usually those in which others live. One would think that these concepts would be at the center of any and all attempts at social knowledge. And in a sense, they are. Modern structures of knowledge have insisted that time and space are invariant, exogenous factors of social reality within which everything we do and say somehow fits. We are thought to be subjects acting within objective reality. We exist immanently, but time and space persist despite us. We are logically forced into perceiving only two kinds of time-space. On the one hand, there is that of the infinitesimally small events, what I shall call episodic geopolitical time-space. And on the other hand, there's that of the infinitely large continuing realities, what I shall call eternal time-space. Now, the world of knowledge for at least 200 years now has required the analyst to choose among only these two possible time spaces to describe social reality. And the problem with this view of the world is that the actors in this social reality, as opposed to the analysts of the social reality, have not at all limited themselves to these two narrowly defined and over-specified time spaces. But how is it possible that the analysts of social reality, those who are presumed to be the specialists, in fact use a framework of analysis that's less perceptive than the rest of the world, the so-called actors in the real world? Now, to seek some insight into this complex situation, we must trace the evolution of our modern structures of knowledge and the role that they have played in the modern world system. In the 19th century and the 20th, those who sought to prevail in public argument and acquire public prestige usually felt it necessary to clothe themselves in the mantle of science. And ever since then, the world of knowledge has been engaged in one long epistemological debate between those who had a basically positivist view of knowledge and those who had a largely hermeneutic view, between those who said that reality was knowable by objective measurement and those who said it was knowable only by empathetic insight. In the 19th century, as a result of the fundamental social change brought about in the wake of the French Revolution, and the new widespread feeling that social change was both normal and inevitable, it suddenly seemed of urgent importance to understand the rules by which the social world operated in order to be better able to control where it was going and at what pace. This ideological need led to the creation of what we today call social science. The two tendencies within the social sciences, what Windelbrand called the nomothetic and ideographic positions, each sought to demonstrate that it could fulfill, and fulfill better, the now culturally dominant scientific ethos, objectivity and value neutrality. Nomothetic, or universalizing disciplines, insisted that objectivity was best guaranteed by the use of replicable, quantitative data. They also insisted that the closer the social scientist was in time and space to the source of the data, the more the data could be controlled for accuracy. The so-called ideographic, or particularizing social scientists, they asserted a socio-psychological premise. The closer the scholar is to his or her data, the more likely he or she is to be motivated to distort the recording of the data in order to serve immediate political and social ends. Value neutrality is easiest, they said, if one studies what is far off in time and space. And again, there was a curious twist. Close acquaintance with the context, but not with the people. What had social science gained by concentrating on only two time spaces? the immediate and ephemeral one of episodic geopolitical time-space, and the unchanging one of eternal time-space. That was at once the price and the guarantee of public recognition and support. What kinds of time-space were not noticed in this epistemological cul-de-sac of the social sciences? There were three, and each was evacuated from discussion in different ways. Now, I've given names to each, and I shall discuss successfully what they imply and why they were evacuated. I shall call them cyclico-ideological time-space, structural time-space, and transformational time-space. I've tried to present the case that the concept of time-space, of the multiple social constructs of time-space, is at the center of the intellectual task of the ongoing reconstruction of the world of knowledge, which is necessary to enable the world of knowledge to fulfill adequately its role in this time of transformation. The emergence of complexity studies within the natural sciences is very illuminating in this regard, and offers great support and assistance for the reconstruction of social science. Now, for social science, the rise of complexity studies represents an epistemological revolution. On the one hand, it undermines totally the basis of the concept of eternal time-space, while at the same time rejecting that of episodic geopolitical time-space, substituting for it the rules of social processes for as long as these rules are relevant. For the orders, the so-called orders that are represented by these rules, constantly yield place to periods and loci of chaos, out of which new orders are constantly regenerated. This is precisely the concept of structural time-space with cyclical ideological time-spaces located within it, coming to moments of transformation that are quite different. Now, the proponents of complexity studies are urging upon physical scientists the arrow of time, which is fundamentally a social science concept. There's thus occurring what I call a social scientization of physical science, but it is social science as it might be, and not as it has been. At the same time, in the same period since the 1970s, we have seen the growth in the humanities of what is called cultural studies. Now, cultural studies has presented itself to us as a radical critique of prevailing epistemologies. What is more significant, in my view, is its attack on the traditional humanities, on the concept of a self-evident aesthetics, which can be summarized in so-called canons. Because canons represent eternal time-space within the humanities, whose protagonists were proclaiming it even as they were insisting that all aesthetic creation is irremediably particular, that is, located in episodic geopolitical time-space. In the humanities, just as in the natural sciences, the supposedly contrasting epistemologies of eternal and episodic time-space were in reality totally compatible one with the other. Now, what the proponents of cultural studies have been saying is that all is context. The social construction of reality is, after all, a social, not an individual process, constructed over structural time-space and varying over cyclical ideological time-space, which brings us to a central premise of social science. So there we are. In the classic divorce between philosophy and science, the social sciences were caught in a tug-of-war between the two and torn apart in the process. But in the bifurcation in the world of knowledge through which we are living, the synchronous rise of complexity studies in the natural sciences and of cultural studies in the humanities may be creating a new convergence around social science, in which a new epistemology may arise that will overcome the two-culture dichotomy and recreate a unified epistemology for the world of knowledge.